Welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast, where empathy meets action in the world of leadership. Your host, Gino Degregori, engages with innovators and seasoned professionals from diverse sectors, all demonstrating the power of leading with kindness. And now, your host, Gino Degregori.
Today's guest believes that high performance without intentions leads to burnout. If you're looking to lead with confidence and compassion, this episode is for you. Hi, I'm Gino Degregori, and welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. Our guest today is Whitney Faires, an international recognized executive coach, keynote speaker, and founder of Whitney Faires Coaching, Speaking and Development. With over 2 decades of corporate experience, Whitney has coached hundreds of leaders worldwide, helping them transform from underestimated to unstoppable. Her signature framework, the Excellence Equation, empowers professionals to achieve big goals with confidence and purpose. I'm so excited to have Whitney here with us, and her approach demonstrates how integrating self-awareness and intentional actions can transform leadership, enhance team collaboration, and drive meaningful change. Whitney, welcome. To kick us off, can you share with us a little bit about you and your journey?
Yeah, I had a 20-year corporate journey in the healthcare space. And what I learned from pivoting from sales leadership to commercial operations and then into org development was I had this passion for people and specifically helping them reach a potential that they didn't think was possible. And I just saw consistently over and over how many people were hungry for development. They wanted to grow. Most importantly, they wanted to be better at whatever their job was. And with the hustle and bustle of our everyday job, sometimes that development gets left behind. And so I made the jump and have dedicated the remainder of my career to executive coaching, helping corporations build meaningful development programs for their people leaders, as well as speaking.
Amazing. Well, congratulations, and looking forward to kind of diving in a little bit more here in a second. So the first question I love asking my guests here is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
Yeah, I think being a kind leader is actually about balance. It's about being able to be a strong, very clear, high expectation leader, but doing so in a way where you assume best intent. That means you're always listening from a place of curiosity. You're open-minded to how people are doing things maybe differently than you, or to understanding the challenges that they're facing. And I think it's really the blend of the two that makes being a kind leader your superpower, essentially, because you have to be able to trust people enough to let them stumble, let them try it their way. Albeit there are always guardrails, right? There are some scenarios where if they can't do it their own way, and you've got to really drive how things are done or when they're done. But there's a lot of opportunity for us as leaders to be kind, to give them grace, to let them learn, to coach them, but to do so in a way that still drives results. You can have both. And I think kind leadership is about that balance.
Yeah, I love that balance. And what resonated with me is the guardrails. You said sometimes as a leader is hard. It's like, oh, can this person really thrive in this particular role or this new challenge or this new project? And we're like, and you have to trust it. I mean, we all learn from those environments, right? We learn from those. And then now, not only just allowing that individual to really learn from that, but also then if it goes well, you high five excited, right? But if it goes the other way, don't necessarily go and make them feel bad, right? It's more like, okay, we learn from it. What can we take from this mistake and not repeat it again, right?
Yeah. And I'd add something to that, which is I think that if we are really good leaders as individuals, we should be able to trust that our people aren't going to mess something up so bad that we can't fix it. Now, There's always, again, that asterisk to it that says, okay, if you are letting someone who's a brand new salesperson pitch some huge client, or letting an IT person who's brand new to a project just run on their own without any guidance or direction, that's more of a judgment call by us. But if we as leaders say, hey, we think this person can do it, we have to trust that we are capable enough as leaders to then provide some coaching and let them try. And if it doesn't go right, we can course correct it in a way where it leaves the business or the task in a better place and the people still feeling good about that experience.
Absolutely. My background is a developer, so I love coding. I don't do it as much, but I remember like maybe 15 years ago, I was leading a team of developers, and there was one lead developer that he was writing some piece of code, and it actually, when he published it or pushed it out into production, it brought down a bunch of systems, and he was so freaked out. He thought he was going to get fired. He thought, people were going to come down on him. And since I was part of the team, I was leading the team. I was like, I came and talked to him like, okay, what happened? And the way I took it, I was like, instead of being about him, I made it, okay, how can we just solve the problem? We can figure out whatever happened, like more detail later. Let's fix the problem. All hands on deck, right? And then after the fact, we kind of did like a review afterwards. And he shared with me, he's like, I was so nervous. I thought I was going to get fired. But your approach in coming into it, like, let's solve this problem now, and then we'll figure out the thing later, allowed him to not be so stressed and, take the situation. And what my point in all of this is, to your balance approach, mentioning is like, I want to make sure that people understand that, right? You don't get anywhere by just pushing this person out or firing them on the spot. There's could be so many things around that happen, right? And so take that approach and take that balance approach essentially, right?
Yeah. And I think we have to remind ourselves as leaders that we are ultimately the accountable person. We're the person leading the people. So if we give away the ability to write the code and publish it without whatever needs to happen to make sure that we get the ideal outcome versus what you shared, that's really on us. Just because we didn't hit publish, we're
Yeah.
leading the person that hit publish. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things I always find that it's easy to forget. You want the big leadership role. You want to manage people. And the moment that something goes sideways, we want to be like, woe is my person. It didn't work like that. When you're a
Yeah.
people leader, it's on you. You stand in front of your people when they're under fire. And when they are shining, when they've done something great, your job as a leader is to stand behind them and let them
Yeah.
have that moment. And when you think of it that way, it's a great pressure test to say, am I really committed to being a leader in that sense of leading teams or people? Because it's not just the fancy title and the money and all the glory. It's a
Right.
lot of problems and a lot of judgment calls that can go either way.
Yeah. I love what you said. It's when things go south, get in front of that, your people, protect them right from that, and then learn from it. Or if things are going well, get behind them and make them shine. So I
Yep.
love that. That's a great, great comment there. I'd like to talk a little bit about the excellence equation framework. Tell me how kind of you came up with it and how is it helping a lot of your customers and clients?
Yeah. Again, it comes from what I shared initially, which is there are so many high achieving, very impact driven professionals out there in any industry that I think have a vision for something, a vision for doing more in their career, for having the career that they want with some semblance of balance or personal life. They want to pivot their career in total. And there could be all sorts of different scenarios, but they have this big vision of something that they want to achieve or do. And oftentimes we get in our own way before we even give that dream a chance. And it's because it's hard. It's hard to take a vision that seems like the job that you don't think you'll ever be able to get, you're just not ready for yet, or the career pivot that just seems crazy to leave a job that you love and go do something totally different. It's hard to go from there to execution, even when you're a highly successful person, because there's all the tactical and the strategical components of it, but there's also the mindset and the mental pieces of it. And I find that so often people play below their ceiling because it's uncertain, it's uncomfortable, and they don't know how to navigate that. And doing so alone for some of those big moves can just be paralyzing to some people. And so we settle back into our comfort zone, and then we are kind of stuck in an okay place, but over time, we know that we really want to be someplace else, but we're kind of stuck in the same spot. And so I developed the excellence equation to help those high achievers take their biggest goals and go from ideation to execution. And we're often not talking about just getting a promotion. We're talking about, hey, I have a vision 5 to 10 years out for this, or I really want to own this big project or division at work. How do I do this? Or I have this vision of this side business that I think is really meaningful work that I want to be able to do in addition to my job that makes me money. And so I have this 8-step process that people can go through, starting with getting really anchored and clear on your why, through assessing your readiness, understanding how to navigate adversity, all the way through carrying out that goal, and then reflection and learning from all the wins and the losses that you experience along the way. And it just gives people confidence in a process that works, because I built it from developing a lot of people over 20 years, essentially. Also, my own experiences. Not foolproof, right? You got to do the work. We don't always get the optimal result, but you can get that optimal result or get to where you're supposed to be with enough resilience.
Beautiful. Yeah, I would love to go into some of the steps in here, but before we get into that is, you mentioned ideation to execution. It's great to dream, right? It's great to think about, what life looks like 5, 10, 20 years, right? I know how far people look, but I live in the future always, constantly, right? And others may not be. So as you are navigating the different personalities in the 20 plus years of talking to different leaders, right? And I'm guessing different levels, CEOs all the way down to, I don't know, team leads maybe, who are interested in that. And what is the biggest challenge you've seen? Maybe not challenge, maybe what are some of the biggest things that you've seen that has impacted as you walk these folks through your 8-step process that allows them to get there? What would those things be?
Yeah. I think the readiness reality, which is an exercise I put them through as part of the early steps in the process, is really great at providing clarity and a clear pathway forward as to the skills that actually make them ready or make them a good fit for that next thing, which so often we're looking at the magnitude of the thing that we're trying to accomplish. And we don't pull back and go, okay, what makes me qualified to go do this? And there are going to be things that probably more than you think that make you qualified. If you really have this genuine drive to go do it and it means something to you, my guess is it's not just totally out in left field, right? So helping them get clear on what makes me really ready, and then where are my gaps? And part of that is really defining not only the gaps, but how would we work towards closing those? And that could be a very long-term plan, a course of years. It could be over the course of months. But just knowing where you stand and having, usually a lot of people are use me as their sounding board in this process, although you can absolutely do it with a mentor or a friend or a spouse. But being able to talk it through with somebody and brainstorm that gives them more motivation and empowerment to take the next step. The other piece of the readiness reality is really being clear on the mindsets that will fuel you and derail you. Because oftentimes the journey from ideation to execution, it's going to be bumpy. There are going to be multiple setbacks, or it's probably not a big enough goal. And so how do you anticipate what those look like for you so that when you see them, it's not so deflating? You're thinking to yourself, I knew this moment would come. It's hard, but I know I can push through it because I've already thought about what that might look like. Although it may be different, but it's similar enough that I'm ready. And I think that's really key, is just the reflection and the anticipation of what you need to do and what you need to work on in that journey along the way.
And would you say belief is a big driver to all of this? Because it's not just seeing it or talking or writing it, as a goal, but it's truly also believing in it, right? Believing that is going to become a reality, and here are some of the things that I could do for it.
Yeah, you are spot on. I am a big belief person, and I say to people all the time, it actually doesn't matter who believes in you if you believe in yourself. And that's really hard. I don't pretend that is easy, but I have seen so many people accomplish amazing things and nobody thought they could. They were the underdog. On paper, they didn't have all the skills or the experiences, but they believed enough that they persevered, that they engaged people who would help them get to where they needed to go. They would do the hard things. They would stay outside of their comfort zone to just keep the momentum inching forward. So belief is absolutely a big driver. And that's why in a lot of my coaching work, I work a lot on mindset, because we all have mindsets that fuel us. We all have an inner narrative that sometimes helps us, but oftentimes that inner narrative can be really negative as well. And we have to know those things. It's something that's only you can control. Okay. And if you have the right tools and skills, it's a game changer for just how you experience life, let alone the things that you're willing to chase.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And then I appreciate that kind of perspective as well. And for me, I always, obviously there's good days, there are bad days, but that little voice that I think sometimes tries to protect you could limit you from amazing things that you could be doing out there in the world,
Absolutely. Sometimes that voice is our best hype person, and other times it is a flat out liar. It tells us things that are just not even true. So we have to be able to parse through those moments and decide, does this serve me, or do I just put it aside and move forward?
Yeah, I've experienced that many, many times. And we're talking about belief, we're talking about vision and execution, right? I've been leading, so I'm in IT, right? That's my passion. As I mentioned, I'm a software engineer, but I got into leadership, talking about kind leadership, and about 6 years ago when I started, actually 5 years after COVID, and really looking at how can I incorporate a culture that allows for this type of leadership to be within the organization as part of the DNA. It's taken me a while and still taking me a while. We got some training, we're doing a lot of stuff, right? And we talk about vision, and I don't know, something within me came up once I was either meditating or doing something, and 50,000 kind leaders worldwide was the kind of like the big vision, someday. There's no timeline, there's nothing, right? And that's what I'm working towards, right? Creating this IT consulting firm with kind leaders that are impacting our customers, partners, and communities, essentially, right? So I believe it, and we're working towards it. I'm attracting the right people into the organization, right? And we'll see where this journey takes us. Like you said, it's a journey from ideation to execution. So
what I think is so great about that is you can be kind and drive results. I will tell you, I've reflected so much over the years on my leadership journey and who I was at, I think I was 27 when I led my first team, and who I am now at 43. And the journey has been so interesting because when I was young, it was the mentality of it's all business. You're driving the results.
Yeah.
You're just giving the feedback, and you're getting to know people here and there, but there wasn't a true investment in the people. It was like, we're here to work. And some of that came from some of the leaders that I had in prior experiences. Some of that was just what I thought I should do, and I didn't know. And I was trying to play the part because I was so young and wanted to recreate the success as a leader that I had as an individual contributor. But as I've grown, what I found is that the more you invest in people as people first and professional second, the better results you'll get. Because here's the thing, they will come to you sooner with problems. They will be more transparent and vulnerable about where they need your help or development areas they think will get in the way when they're doing what they're doing. They will be so loyal and willing to work for you because they feel that investment in that give that you're pouring into them. And I could go on and on, but I think you get the concept is we often mistake this idea of being kind as it's soft. It's too people focused. Like we're here to deliver a result of whatever kind our industry does. But it's actually, you gotta be the kind leader to get the optimal result. And if I would say, like, think about it, think about all the leaders you've had. And my guess is the people that were just really hard on you all of the time, didn't care, probably weren't the people that you would look back in 10 years are going to be like, I'm so glad I work for that person. There'll be some people that do, and that's okay. But generally speaking, most of us, we like to work for somebody that cares at some level, that knows us, that invests in us.
Absolutely. And you got me thinking when I went back all the way to like high school. There was always somebody in my life, in my path, that
Mm.
was a kind of coaching individual or just an advisor or mentor. Now, like looking back, that always connected with me.
Yep.
It wasn't like just like let's have a conversation. And it was like because I always had that vision. I was like almost like living in the future, and people were attracted to that. But then also be like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. All the way from like high school coaches, to professors in college, to other CEOs or leaders in the industry wants to start getting into it, right? Because when you talk to me, the personality I am, and this is what I tell the audience here, is like be yourself. Like,
Yeah.
don't pretend to create this persona that you're trying to become something that you're not. And
Yeah.
I've always said that. I've always kind of spoke from my heart to whoever I was talking to. This is what I think we should do, or this is the direction, or and with no ego, right? Like, just tell me, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? How can I be better? Right? How
Yeah.
can I improve myself? And I was funny enough, I attracted a lot of people out there that were willing to help, right? Because there's a lot of people that want to help.
Yeah. And I think you can do all those things in your own unique style.
Yeah.
So for the people that are more introverted or more serious versus those that are very high energy like me, we can all do it our own way.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people they see the expectations of their leaders, or they have a mentor that's different than them. And I'll always speak for myself. At times when I was younger in my career, I thought, well, I should be like them. And that's the worst route you can go. You should take the lessons from them, but be like you. And being human is what most people want. It's just for you to be relatable and someone that's approachable and someone that's willing to also say, "Hey, I struggle with this too," or I may not be the best person for this. Let me connect you
Yeah.
with my peer who is top notch at this thing that you want to learn or do, and that's okay. I mean, that makes us someone that people can connect with and relate to, and we want that in the workplace.
Absolutely. And one thing you said was we're all different, right? And our approaches and the way we receive things or communicate things are going to be different. I had an employee once kind of tell me, but I'm not like you, Gino, right? I'm not like out there and talking about it. I'm more introverted, more reserved. And I say, yeah, you don't have to be like me, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways that you can contribute in your own ways. But the biggest thing is connecting with people with your genuine self and communicating with people with not pretending, not creating something that is not. And I think those are the times that cultivate some really strong relationships and really some amazing relationships that could impact so many things out there in our world, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
coming back to your framework, if you don't mind, I would like to, because I don't think we went into it one by one, right? Like, if we just quickly go into the 8 steps and maybe one thing or two that you want to kind of highlight, because I'm very intrigued about that.
Yeah. So the first step is to identify your anchor. And this is all about our ability to know what matters to us and why. Not on the surface, but in the moment where everything falls apart. We have such a clear understanding of the impact of why this matters to us, how this will bring value to others, that we are able to push through. So that's identify your anchor. And I always say, like, if after you've identified your anchor, you don't feel so motivated to
Hmm.
push through and go run after this goal, it's probably not worth going after. So it's also
Yeah.
a bit of a pressure test at the same time. So next comes readiness reality. And that's our ability, like I mentioned earlier, to really do a quick analysis of ourselves to say, hey, like, where are we ready for this? And where are we not? And what are the mindsets or the obstacles where we could get in our own way? So that's a good way to then get awareness, but then also start defining your path forward. Other things on the excellence equation is we want to make sure that we are then working smart and strategically. So often we confuse our ability to do something and being busy with actually doing the right things. So we want to execute through action, which is knowing from our readiness reality the things that are really, really important for us to do, doing them with quality, having clear success metrics along the way. And then next up is the power of choice. So this sounds probably pretty obvious. Like, okay, well, I've done all this. I'm choosing to move forward.
Right.
But there is psychologically a moment when you say, I am 100% all in. I'm willing to share this dream that seems a little crazy with a friend or a mentor
Yeah.
or a family member or a coach, whoever it may be. There's a moment where when you put it out there in the world and you say, I'm doing this, here's my goal, here's my ideal
Yep.
timeline, here's my plan, that then makes you more committed through the
Yep.
simple act of actually choosing and communicating that to a group of people. Then you have to engage your support system. I call it engage your people. And yes, we all have mentors and leaders and those types of things. But I actually show a little graphic that talks about
Yeah.
the different types of people that you need in your circle of influence, is what I like to call it. You need people that are accountability partners. I will say, I think I'm a very highly accountable person as an individual, but especially as I've launched my own business, there are things that are very uncomfortable for me to do or
Yeah.
I have less confidence in. And it may not be that you need accountability to every single milestone in your plan, but there are certain things that you need accountability to. And having some folks that can create that accountability that you trust, that can push you, is really valuable. You also need your energizers, the people that are going to keep you
Yeah.
going, build you up, be that support system. You need your mentors, the people that are going to guide you and advise you along the way. And then you need just sounding boards, people
Yep.
that have a set of knowledge and experiences that can help you on your journey as you really need to bounce ideas off people, because chasing big goals can be lonely, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you're pushing, and you don't always get to the win as fast as you want. You have to develop a different plan because you're hitting roadblocks, and
Yep.
you need that source of sounding boards that can help you along the way. You will certainly need resilience through this
Mm.
entire process. And I have a framework around turning adversity into opportunity. And that's not only a process of how you kind of intake adversity as it comes and separate the emotions for a moment so that you
Yeah.
can understand the impact and the way forward. There's a process that I teach my clients around adversity, but it's also a mindset. And
Mm.
I tell people all the time, think back to some of the hardest things that have happened to you in your life, personally, professionally, you name it. And what did you learn from each one of those experiences? What
Yeah.
value did you generate from those? And if we are looking for it, we see it. It's easy to get stuck in the frustration and the why is this happening and how do I get through this?
Yep.
But when we
Yep.
start to get to the other side, that's where we really get to ask the question, how did I grow from this? What did
Yeah.
I learn? And ultimately, I think for the majority of people I know, it's those moments that really shape us, that
Right.
require us to get stronger, to get more versatile, to ask ourselves hard questions and grow. And so adversity, I think, is such a gift, but you have to have the mindset for it and the process to move through it efficiently so it doesn't wear you down.
Yeah.
Next is unlock your inner winner. And this is all about our ability to flip the performance switch, because there are multiple times along the way where you're going to need to get yourself in the mindset and in the space where you can step up and deliver and perform. And I think that, people often talk about, they went beast mode or they were in the zone. And
Right.
actually you can recreate that zone.
Yeah.
It's a choice and it's a discipline. It's not luck. And
Yeah.
unlocking your inner winner is about defining what that looks like for you and knowing how to turn it on and leverage it when you need it the most. And then last is just future fulfillment. And that's the reflection piece. That is your ability to really look back on the experiences you've had, whether you achieved what you hoped or not, and go,
Mhm.
okay, let's do a quick debrief of this. What
Yeah.
went well? What did I learn? Where did I stumble? How do I grow? What's next? And there's an element of reflection and learning and gratitude all wrapped up into one. And I think even in the times where I have had the most optimal results, there are still things I would go back and do differently. And that's something I learned when I worked for Intuitive. We were just so big on, even in that highest of highs, let's enjoy those. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate those. But then let's say, hey, what did we learn from that we would do over again, that we could
Right.
do more often? And then what are some of the areas where, hey, we got where we wanted to go, but we would do it differently the next time?
Yeah.
And there's so much learning in that reflection piece. And it's so easy to do. So
That's huge. No, thank you very much for walking us through. I had so many questions, but I wanted to kind of finish the the
yeah.
8 steps there.
Sorry, it's so hard. I'm not, in hindsight, I should have made it like 5, but it deserved 8. So it's a lot to cover without showing all my visuals.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you kind of walking through it, but it resonated with me. And the big one that touched kind of my I want to say my heart almost is the resilience
Mhm.
part, because there's a lot of good things as an entrepreneur that happen in life, but there's a lot of punches that we get right and left, get knocked out sometimes, and you just got to get up. And I tell my kids, it's like, and I heard this from a quote, I think it's Rocky says, and it's not, doesn't matter how hard you get hit, get kicked down and then get up to keep moving forward, right? It's just a matter about
Mhm.
getting up, learning from those mistakes, learning from those challenges, learning from those situations you're in, that makes you better on the other end. And it is totally a mindset where the mindset is so important, because it could be a good thing or a bad thing. But if the mindset is in the wrong spot, it's going to take you the wrong way, right? So, for example,
Yeah.
I have this gentleman that I know, he doesn't work for us, but he's just so negative, right? And I'm like, just shift it a little bit, right? It's like the world's not happening to you; it's happening for you to experience. Because I'm like, I said, like, if you were to win the lottery right now, what is your first reaction will be? Oh man, I have to pay taxes on that. I'm not going to, get the full amount.
Yeah.
I was like, look at that, right? Look at how you're approaching winning the lottery, right? If you were like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to have whatever time 5 million, even if it's $5, right? You have $5 more than you had before. And so my point to that is, it's that mindset is so important. So when things happen to me, like recently, like last week, we do a lot of government work as well. And we didn't pick this large contract that we went spend a lot of money, a lot of time. And it broke my heart. But I was like, okay, what does this mean?
Mhm.
All right. And not so much what we did wrong. Okay, what does this mean? What can I learn from this? And how do we avoid this in the future? How do we continue to get better and better at what we do, compared to being down in the dumps and being like, oh, we
Yeah.
suck. We don't want to do this again. That's it. I give up. No more. This is not for me. Right. So,
Yeah.
is that so? Can you expand on? I mean, I just gave you a lot on good things, but does that resonate with your bullet 6 or step 6?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the first piece is how you view adversity when you're not faced with it, which is a
Yeah.
bit about what you're speaking to, is really key, because it's going to come. Like I
Right.
don't know anyone who doesn't face adversity weekly. I mean, I feel like
Right.
there's little micro moments of adversity daily for most people. And but we're just immune to it because that's just a little problem, right?
Mhm.
But our ability to really ask ourselves, how do we view adversity when we're not in the moment, helps us understand our tendencies and how we react to it. So if I know that adversity to me is always like, oh, why does this happen? This is another problem. I don't need this. This is frustrating. If that's when I reflect and I say that's kind of what comes to my head first when I experience adversity, then I got to think about, is that really serving me? Because if I spend 2 hours calling my peers and being like, "Can you believe this happened?" Calling my
Yeah.
manager, what's the company expect me to do?" And down this unproductive process, like, what's it doing for you? It's probably just wearing you out and making you, compounding your frustration or negativity. And so knowing those default tendencies are key. And then figuring out, how can I shift those to be a bit more productive? It does not mean I like adversity. I don't
Right.
like it
Right.
any more than anybody else, but it is a
Right.
reality of what I am going to face. And what I have learned is that by taking a more positive approach, which is, adversity is going to happen, I'm going to get through it. It's going to make me stronger or better, or it's going to bring value to me in some way. So I might as well just dig in, you know? And
Yeah.
that's how I've learned to view it. And I will say there's many people that have had much more adversity fulfilled lives than I have, but I've had my fair share of adversity
Yeah.
in many different ways. And when I look back at things I would change in my life, it is rarely the things that brought me adversity,
Yeah.
honestly, because it's helped me become somebody that I'm really proud of. And so you have to go in with this mindset that there is opportunity, and I don't have to like where I'm at. I don't have to enjoy the process of overcoming it, but in the end I'm going to look back and I'm going to say I got better,
Yeah.
or I made a difference. And sometimes it's as
Absolutely.
simple as the outcome is better than what it would have been with your original plan. It could
Right.
be your growth. It could be someone that you connected with in this process. There's so many different ways that it can come out as something that's really valuable to you. But one of the derailers is emotion. And I'm very sensitive to saying you shouldn't have emotion because we are all human. So we have
That's right.
emotion. The key is the emotion causing you to think or act or behave differently than you would have without it? And if the answer is yes, then we need to just, like I said, we need to like separate it from the adversity and just park it for a bit so that
Yeah.
we can start logically thinking through how we approach adversity. And we will come back and we will address the emotion. We will understand what that means. But we often make adversity more complicated and more dramatic than it needs to be when our emotion is like fuel to the fire. And so
Right.
the separation of the two, so we can handle each one of them in their own ways,
Yeah.
is a huge value add in the process.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And and I'm a very emotional individual as well, so I catch myself as like, I love what you say. Is this serving me or not, right?
Mhm.
Or taking me a different direction, and it's hard, because we are humans, like you said, and it's sometimes the ego, right? The ego takes over, and it's like, no, you can't tell me to do that, right? You can't tell me or something, whatever. Like, and it's the biggest thing, and that's why I was telling people, it's like moving away from the ego into more into the heart space to be more open to making better decisions. And
Yeah.
because if you're making decisions out of fear or from an ego perspective, they're not going to be the right decisions for the most part.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you don't have the reaction. It means that
Right.
that reaction doesn't persist for like 2 days, or if you need
Right.
to act faster, you're not making decisions about how you proceed while you still feel that way. You have to be able to just compartmentalize it almost, just park it
Yep.
for a moment.
Exactly.
Hey, like all these things may be true. This may be unfair. I may think that my boss doesn't understand what I do every day and what he's asking me to do on this task. Like all those things can be how you feel and how you react. That's okay. But you have to be able to move through it efficiently. So we don't want to sit in the misery. We want
Yep.
to acknowledge it, sort through what we can on a short timeline, and then put it aside. And we can circle back and go,
Yep.
okay, like what was going on there? And are there, if there are some of the inherent reactions I had were true, then I can address those now after we've gotten the adversity right sized,
Absolutely.
if you will.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I always learn so much from my guests, and just today, so these 8 steps are really good, and I'm looking forward to going a little bit deeper here in the future as I get to know
Sure.
you a little bit more in the books. One thing that I like to do here is flip the mic. Is there any questions that you would like to ask me?
Yeah. I always like to hear from leaders. What is the biggest lesson you have learned through experience in leadership? So what's the one thing that you just look back and you go, man, this really hit me hard and is something that I've always carried with me?
Yeah, for me, it's patience. Really patience of myself because I'm a
Mm,
driven individual, and I'm like, no, we got to get this, we got to get this, and if I'm not patient, to wait for things to come at the right time, and understanding that, and then flipping it towards patience with our people, right?
mhm.
Not everybody is we're all different, so not everybody, and I learned that with my kids, right? All three of them are different, and so having the patience and understanding that we're all different, and they're going to be doing their own journey, right?
Mhm.
That's very helpful. So for me, that's the one thing. Is just continue to be patient, and will allow me to slow some things down and focus my attention on the right things that should be helping others.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. One question that I think can often help people when they're trying to instill patience is asking the question, would I if my friend came to me with the same thing that I'm trying to sort through in my own head, or a colleague, what advice would I give them? What standard would I say hold yourself accountable to? And sometimes taking yourself out of it, because we set really high expectations for ourselves, oftentimes higher than we do for other people,
Yeah.
allows us to gain some levity because it's hard. We think we should be doing better or we should have the answer. And if someone came to you with the same thing that was going through your head, would you say like, yeah, you should be doing better. You should know.
Right.
Oftentimes, no, we have this just unrealistic expectation for ourselves. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, and that brings us to like talk about kind leader, right? Being kind to yourself, right? I know we have high expectations, but also taking care of yourself is very important, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being nice and kind to yourself is very very much important. So thank you for that question. That was amazing. Thanks.
Yeah.
As we start wrapping it up, I've got a few rapid fire questions for you. What's one book every leader should read?
I would say The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. It's an old one, but a good one. It's by Patrick Lencioni. And it essentially simulates this work environment where this new leader steps in, and there's just a lot of lessons that you can learn. And if you dive into the book and you Google some of the resources, there are these short little assessments you can give your team to start identifying maybe which of the five dysfunctions are most pertinent to the team that you work with. And so it's also a really great experience for you to get some awareness for the team that you are leading or are a part of.
Beautiful. What's one favorite quote or mantra?
My favorite mantra is dream the dream, build the plan, and bet on yourself in big ways. And I feel like I say this from a place of I'm grateful that I had a lot of opportunities to take on really big goals or jobs when I was oftentimes the youngest, and when I entered the corporate space, one of the few females in the room. And I've always committed to not being okay, like, hey, I made it. I became a people leader, but I believe that I can be one of the best, or I can have this impact. But I think you've got to be willing to bet on yourself. You've got to be willing to be vulnerable enough to acknowledge the dream. Then you got to figure out how you make it a reality, and you got to go all in. And it goes back to that belief in yourself. And
Yeah.
way back in 2017, this probably is making this not rapid fire, so I apologize. But in
Okay.
2017, I was on maternity leave with my son. So I had an infant and a 2-year-old. And this is when my vision for coaching kind of really was solidified in my mind. And as you can imagine, on maternity leave with 2 young kids and this intense corporate career that was waiting for me, my husband's, has a pretty intense career as well. How do you make a career pivot? What does that even look like? I mean, it was complicated. And I started during that time networking with some folks to start getting more awareness on the landscape and what it would look like to build this vision for myself and make it a reality. And I found this note in my office one day from 2017 that said, dream the dream, build the plan, and bet on yourself in big ways. And somehow I didn't even remember that I wrote it. But I had just finished launching my website, and that was on my website. And it was like this moment that I realized in my head, it was always, pushing me forward. And I believe that we all have so much more power and potential and impact within us, but we got to bet on ourselves.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. I mean, yeah, it's like, you write it down, right? And it becomes a reality. So
Yeah.
congratulations on that. If you could have coffee with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
This is almost an impossible question to answer, but I would say, because I am a sports fanatic, I played college sports and I love all sports, but I would say Phil Jackson. And the reason why I think he is so interesting, aside from being the winningest NBA coach, he built dynasties within 2 very different franchises, and with usually a trio of players that were all big names, high ego, different ways of leading those individuals. But he created a culture where I think mostly people could thrive. He learned how to flex his style so that he could coach each player differently to get the most out of them and stay connected. And I think he was one of the first that I remember really talking about some of the less traditional ways of leading and connecting and preparing his team, meditation and high emotional intelligence. And I just think what he's created and how he's conducted himself over the years is there's something we could learn from him, or at least I could.
Beautiful. Appreciate sharing that. Awesome. All right. The last thing that I have for you is where can our guests find you, connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me, of course, at my website. You can always set up a strategy call if you're exploring coaching or want to learn how I can work with your organizations. I'm sure you'll put my website in the show notes, but it's whitneyfaires.com. And then please follow me on LinkedIn. You can search me or on Instagram at Whitney_Faires. And yeah, just check out what I'm posting. And if it resonates, let's connect and see how we can help each other.
Awesome. What's a final thought or message you would like to leave our audience with?
I think I said it already, but be the person that believes in you. And that's all that matters.
That's beautiful. Be the person that believes in you. That's awesome. Thank you for that. So thank you again for sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. Amazing journey and story. And those 8 steps that you shared really resonated with me. And I'm looking forward to kind of diving deeper into it. I'm sure our audience is as well. So thanks again. And for our audience, thanks for listening to the Kind Leader Podcast. Remember, be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day.